Who has always been political. Now, that is one of the arguments that's almost always rolled out when criticism is leveled at the Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era, or, this latest, what's it called again, Doomsday. It looks absolutely atrocious. It looks genuinely atrocious. But people say, look, Doctor Who has always been political. What, you don't like politics? They've always had it. Well, that is actually quite a strong argument, because Doctor Who, in my opinion, mostly has been political. I think, you know what, going back to even one of the earliest stories, the Daleks was a very politically charged story. It was dealing with nuclear war and the effects of nuclear war and radiation. It was really very, very contemporary and very, very cutting edge, and really, I think, got into the fears of the time. And we see politics, politics, sociology, however you want to describe it, we see it often in Doctor Who, I think, right throughout its entire history. And Malcolm Hughes did some excellent work in the Pertwee years. I mean, look, the Peloton stories were hardly a veiled allegory to the the miners or the EU and things like that. I would say Doctor Who has always been political. But so what's the problem with the last era, the Jodie Whittaker era, the current era, this Doomsday thing? What's the problem then? Because those things are Doomsday isn't overtly political, but the star of it, Suze Kempner, very much is. And when the absolutely breathtakingly awful trailer was revealed, and it was absolutely breathtakingly awful, was revealed, and it was just rightly criticised for being absolute garbage. Suze was like, oh, it's all because of you don't like my stance on trans rights and politics. Now, truth is, I probably don't see eye to eye with her, but I wasn't aware of them beforehand. I really couldn't care less. What I was watching was absolute garbage. But what's the difference, right? What is the difference between something like Rosa, I think very, very politically charged, and I don't know, Happiness Patrol, or any number of things you can do. So I think that the easiest way to contrast it is to look at contemporary writers. Let's look at Nick Briggs, for example. He writes a lot at Big Finish, and listen, Russell, if you're watching, mate, I think he deserves to be writing for Shooty in the new series. Like, Dalek spin-off. I don't know. I really think he's a great writer, and I think he's a great writer because I think he's worked very hard at his craft for pretty much all of his life. But the thing is this: Nick, as far as I know, is very political, right? He has very, very deep-seated political views, and I think they're like really a core part of his morality, right? And I think with any good writer, you do see that form the worldview that the story is in. And for me, they generally work, even if it's a worldview I don't see eye to eye with. Like, if you ever heard Nick Briggs' take on The Prisoner, I think he had a conclusion to it which was very different from the TV show one. And I like so fundamentally disagree with what I believe he was saying in that conclusion. However, I so fundamentally am ecstatic that he said it, because it was, I think something like The Prisoner needs to have a real expression of self, right? So let's take Rosa, however. Rosa, was that Doctor Who being political? No, I would say that's the absolute inverse of that. I think that's politics being Doctor Who, right? Because politics is the thing that, politics, sociology, however you want to describe it, is the thing. There's the thing that led that story in Doctor Who, and I think that's why it really didn't work very well. And when I say politics, it was the central idea that it was propagating is that black people are always going to be abused and held down by white people, because white people intrinsically are racist and black people are intrinsically victims. Now, I think that's the core of that, which is not my worldview at all. I think we're all human beings and we're all born with the same equal potential, right? But I think that forms the core of critical race theory, which is very, very much in American schools now. I don't know about UK schools, but I would say that's a very current political idea, and I think they wrap that idea around Doctor Who rather than having an idea for example, what's that one with Robert Holmes got a big tax bill. The Sunmakers, right? He wrote a story like taking the piss and complaining about tax people and the idea of tax. And it was a great little story, right? It was a great little story because it was a story, right? That was Doctor Who being political. Rosa, and I think, Orphan 55, basically the entire Chibnall era, right? The entire Chibnall era was extremely political, but it was politics dressed as Doctor Who, not Doctor Who being political. So I think that's the fundamental difference, right? And I think you can really see it in the end product. And if you can't see it in the end product, you can almost always see it in the audience reception to the end product, which is always dire, right? This never ever works out well. Actually, I feel like this Doomsday thing, which immediately retreated behind a smokescreen of politics. Oh, you don't like my politics. I don't think it's going to do very well, quite frankly. I really feel genuinely bad for all the licensees that have invested any money into this project, because I don't think they're seeing it back, right? I think the project looked weak, and I think the star of it is, their political outlook, activism, whatever. Their poor manners on Twitter, essentially, really has torpedoed this before it got off the ground. And that's, even if it was watchable, but the trailer looked like absolute garbage. So anyway, has Doctor Who always been political? Yes. Has politics always been Doctor Who? No. No, it hasn't, right? No, it hasn't. And now, the last 5 years, politics has been everything. Politics has been Star Trek, politics has been Star Wars, politics is freaking everything. And I think the stupidest thing that we have done as a society is we moralized our political differences. We say if somebody if we think somebody has a political difference, not even if we know, if we misinterpret a thing they say, right, and go, we must hate black. Like, for example, I had a thumbnail once where Jodie Whittaker was saying, look at my new companion, she's so diverse, and it was a person in blackface, right? And the joke was making fun of predominantly white liberal people who I feel are just insanely racist, right? They insanely look down at black people and look at them as, I don't know, objects. It's really genuinely odd, right? So that's what I was taking the piss out of right there. I wasn't saying I think black people should be made fun of and blackface is a good thing. However, when you see blackface on the people are, generally speaking, quite dumb, and they can only go think about one thing, and they can't process or read the words to understand it. But the reason why they will oftentimes pretend not to understand it is because they don't like having the piss taken out of them, essentially, right? That's essentially what the problem is. But again, going back to the question, has Doctor Who always been political? Yes, I believe so. I believe Doctor Who has always been political. Has politics always been Doctor Who? No. And I think that has been the death of culture, right? Absolutely the death of culture. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. Subscribe, like, share, subscribe. All those things are fan-dabby-dozy. Have yourselves a great day.